pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
Freezing my ass off. So freaking cold.
I know, it's ridiculous. This weekend was so nice too, 70s.
Yeah, that's the hard thing for me in Colorado, man. It was freaking 70s and spring on Sunday and 20s and snow on Monday.
Yep.
So
all good things come with a price. You know, Colorado's got beautiful mountains, legal marijuana, but you also got cold-ass winters.
Yeah.
And state
honestly, they're not
taxes.
that cold. If you go up to Montana, that's cold winter.
Yeah, I bet.
We're kind of spoiled here, but just here's the difference for me. In Montana, you just know it's going to be cold for like 8 months. So you just kind of get used to being cold. But down here, it's like hot one day. So like, spring. Then it's winter again. Then it's hot again. You're just always – I've never seen weather like Colorado's where it's 70 on Sunday and snowing on Monday.
Yeah.
Seems
Could have all 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah, no kidding. But we're back. Man, episode 47.
47.
Ready to get after it?
Yeah, ready to
do
get
this.
after it. So let's talk about last week's Purposeful Practice Review. Let us talk you out of your dreams. What kind of reflections did you have on this Purposeful
Well, it was
Practice?
interesting. I got some feedback from a couple members of the community. They were kind of taken back by the title. Like, man, you guys are all about like building dreams and chasing them. So I was kind of, I wasn't sure where we were going to go with that, but they enjoyed it. And I think it's always good to reflect if you're actually pursuing your dreams or talking yourself out of them. The thing I love the most about the episode is just reflecting back on how many people had dreams at one time, and that's the only dream they allowed themselves to have. You know, like for me, like being a professional baseball player, well, I wasn't good enough. But what if I'd never moved past that dream, I'd have missed out on all this other stuff. And I see, you know, and that's what a couple of people talked about, is they had actually been kind of just limiting themselves to what they once dreamt, not what they could dream of today.
Yeah, that's
What about
interesting.
you?
You know, this was a really reflective practice for me, and I still need to work on it because I'm in a position to where I'm kind of bouncing back and forth. I had said in earlier episodes, my focus for 2020 is to focus. And I have a lot of passions, a lot of dreams, quote unquote, but I'm really trying to narrow it. So I have a goal list on my phone, notes of 101 life goals. There's only like 50 something on there, but sometimes I add to it. One of them was the MMA fight, of course. So with that one, you know, complete transparency, being completely honest, when that got taken away, there was definitely some thoughts of doubt of like, man, this is a part-time job for me, you know, with the commute, the training, the eating, the diet, everything. I mean, at least 10 hours a week of my life is going into this, at least. And with being an entrepreneur and having everything else I have going on, it's like, you know, is this something I want to continue to chase? And I had to ask myself, like, wait, you know, why am I doing this? What's the why? Right? I'm not trying to prove anything to myself anymore. Like, I know I did the work. I prepped up. I know I'll get in there and do my thing. So it was interesting. It was interesting to reflect on that. And for that specific dream, I know that I'm going to move forward because I made a commitment to a lot of people. A lot of people bought tickets. They have comp tickets. So that's really what's pushing that for me. But yeah, I'm gonna continue to do a little practice on the talk you out of your dreams, because I think that to achieve your big dreams, you can't have too many dreams all over the place like I do at times. So
For sure.
definitely gonna have to choose.
You have to focus, but I think the other thing you said is important too, and that is when you share your dreams with other people, it kind of holds you accountable to fulfilling it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I think that's going to kind of tie into what we talk about today, and that is when you dream and you share your dream with others, you kind of empower them to start dreaming again too, and remind them that dreams are possible.
Yeah.
You know, and most people in your circle will never get in the cage and do an MMA fight. However, the symbolism of you doing that may get them out of their own personal cage and start progressing again.
Yeah, definitely.
You know? And I think I think too many times we selfishly think dreams and goals are for us, and they do feel good, and it's always nice to achieve. But to me, nothing feels better than bringing people with us
Yeah.
and our hope, our dreams, inspiring them to proceed for theirs.
Yeah. Amen. Couldn't agree more. So I think a big part of it too is, dreaming big, but also every successful person says this. You can look in history at everyone who's ever reached success. It's such a big piece of being successful is the climb and how you give back, how you treated people on the way up. And they say if you didn't treat people well, it's going to be a hard way back down. And I think that ties greatly into today's episode, which is who are you blessing?
Yeah.
And that's an easy thing to forget, to forget to be someone kind. I know in my journey in entrepreneurship, the first few years, I was really selfish with my time. Like it was like, okay, like what am I getting from this interaction?
Right.
And if it wasn't directly benefiting me in some way, I saw it as a waste of time. Like just, I need to work. I really need to focus, the super grind mentality. So my first question for you, Jared, is, are you as interested in helping others as you are in helping yourself?
Yeah, it's, prepping for this, I started thinking, and as far back as I remember, like even on Christmas Day, I always liked to open my presents last. And it wasn't because I wanted the attention of opening presents. I thoroughly enjoyed watching my brother and sister open theirs. Like I almost enjoyed that more than getting anything. Yeah, it's I think when you help others and you consider them in your pursuits, it just pays you back so many more times over than being selfish and trying to step on everybody to get to the top. And it's interesting, in police work, I saw that a lot. It was it's very interesting because when you get into that world, it's all about team and community and sharing. But then certain times they have these promotional processes or just underlying attitude where to get ahead, I need to kind of make you look bad or make sure you don't look as good as me. And unfortunately, some people got promoted off that kind of a platform, and the damage that's done there when you're trying to build yourself up by making everybody else look bad, it doesn't play out long term. Right? It's not healthy for any organization. It's not healthy for your relationships. And eventually what happens is you become an island of one. So yeah, you may be successful however you're measuring that success, but it's pretty damn lonely when you're there by yourself.
Yeah, dude. And it's proven throughout history that that's the least effective tactic of communication and integrating in a community. I mean, Ben Franklin says it best, like, speak ill of no man and shout their praises to the world.
Long term.
Long term.
But here's the dichotomy, if you will. Sometimes short term, the quickest way to get there is to push everybody else down.
Yeah, that definitely
right? You know what I'm saying?
Case.
And sometimes people will get caught up in that, okay, short-term gain, let me hold you guys back, make sure I look good, I'm going to get to that spot. And I truly believe most people, honestly, I think most people, even if they make that choice, they have intentions of lifting people up once they're there. Unfortunately, what happens is they don't usually follow through on it because their habits aren't uplifting. Their habits are pushing people down. So even when they get there, they're not unifying people because the way they got there was separating. So and which is why people will act that way. Why people will sacrifice their teammates like sports, they'll go to the media and blame, it wasn't my fault we lost, it was his and his and his fault. Well, what happens to that person? Right? They're trying to elevate themselves, remove themselves from the blame by making it everybody else's fault. Well, who wants to be on that team? Who wants to play with that guy? Once you start throwing everybody else under the bus, because the reality is, if we're not where we want to be, it's our fault. It's nobody else's fault ever. But it's easy and quick gratification to kind of throw everybody else out and make yourself look like this, but the truth is that's not who you are.
Yeah, and that's childish too. Who does that? Kids.
Yeah.
When you're in elementary school, middle school, you see kids pointing fingers, blaming. That's a childish thing to do. When you
Yeah.
really start leveling up and living with purpose, you see how, even from a selfish standpoint, let's put ourselves in a selfish standpoint. Just for your benefit, it's better for you to help others and give back because it all comes back. The gift of giving is a real thing.
Yeah.
And it may not be immediate, you may not be able to see it directly, but it really does, and that can be in any sense. So I have a couple examples and stories of how I try to continuously give back. But what would you say, Jared? And not in the sense of just charity or giving to homeless or something, but kind of
No.
what is your way of, who are you blessing? Who are
Yeah.
you blessing?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's a mindset, right? And I think this is a good episode because we've talked a lot lately about chasing your dreams and being accountable to yourself and pushing forward. But I don't want us to misconstrue that you do that all by yourself. And one of the best examples I can remember was my grandma was a waitress for many years in her life. And which is a hard job. You're on your feet, you're serving people. Some are grateful, some aren't grateful. The cook's going to get something wrong. Like, you deal with a lot of stuff. And I remember every time I was around her, if we went out for dinner, she would over-tip the servers. And she'd always say, you never cheat. Like, you always tip. And tip them well because this is a hard... And she would share her stories. And, she would say, like, they're here serving you. That means they're not with their kids. They're not with their family. They're here taking care of you. The least you can do is appreciate them. Mm-hmm. And so I love it. And sometimes Andrea would be like, oh, my God, how much are you tipping them?
Yeah.
But I honestly...
What do you tip? What's your percentage?
Probably 30.
Okay, that's a good tipper.
Yeah. I like to be over a quarter.
Nice.
And
nice.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to have some abundance in life. And I think for many of us, if we would stop and look at somebody and say, okay, where was I at when I was their age? Mm-hmm. Right? Because, a lot of your waitresses are younger ladies or maybe some single moms. And I think, like, okay, what would $100 have meant to me as a 21-year-old college student hustling apart? It would have meant a month's worth of groceries.
Yeah.
And in my life, $100 is not quite as impactful. So share it. So I just remember that from my grandma being young, and she didn't have much money, but what she had, she was going to give. And I think that always set a great tone.
That is a great tone.
But that she would also be swiping the salt and pepper shakers from the table and sugar packets because she grew up in the Depression when you didn't have a lot of stuff.
Oh, how funny.
I'll never forget, we were out because, I didn't see her all the time, but we were at the restaurant. She tipped really well, but then she put the salt and pepper shakers up her sleeve.
How
just
funny, man.
Did.
Salt and pepper, huh? My grandmother would take stuff in napkins from buffets. Be like, Grandma, Abuelita, what are you doing? It's like, oh, just for later.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. Put it in her purse.
Yeah. But I think if you look at both of us, Ali, a lot of our satisfaction, if we stop and at the end of the day, when we take inventory of what we've accomplished, I'd venture to say at least half of what we feel good about is what we did for somebody else.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's always
every day.
It's always has to do with other people. And here's the thing, I feel like the term giving back or being a blessing to someone, a lot of people misconstrue to needing to donate or go feed the homeless, but we can do this on a daily basis. So for me, I have a couple things. I have this sponsored child in Colombia, Jonathan, who one time when I first moved to Denver, I got stopped by this guy on the street, and I actually was just admiring like his sales pitch and kind of like analyzing how he got my attention and everything. And he told me about this program, Children International. So I've been paying $30 a month for like 3 years, and he writes me letters and send me pictures. And at first he wanted to be a soccer player, then he wanted to be a reggaeton singer because he's in Colombia, you know. So it's cool, and I see pictures, and he's kind of growing up. So I get a good feeling, little once a month thing from him, and a donation from him. Another thing, like I used to volunteer a lot of my time to the Big Boy or Big Brother Big Sister Corporation. I have a little brother, and now I'm really excited to make a decent contribution to Be Bold, empowering adaptive athletes. So those are things that is kind of in that first idea of like giving back, being a blessing. I was really fortunate to where even though we complained and moaned and groaned a lot about it, my mom would always be, especially during the holidays, we're going to the homeless shelter, we're donating our time, we're either feeding the homeless or wrapping gifts. We did a bunch of that stuff, and my mom always preached on giving back. But now I have noticed, and sometimes I have to mentally talk to myself that I can give back in every exchange. So my one thing, I've said this before, is I always ask people, and it's crazy how they light up when I ask this question. Hey, what was the best part of your day?
Yeah.
What's been the best part of your day today? Whether it's the grocery clerk, the person I'm getting coffee from.
The lady at Lucky's sent us a message on Instagram about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
A whole recap of the conversation, and she went home and shared it with her husband, and yeah, it was funny because I was like, oh, Ali was at Lucky's.
Yeah, all the Lucky's ladies know me. It's funny because I always ask that question, and just the other night there was a Lucky's clerk who I've never met, and she's like, "You have the podcast, right?" Like, yeah, and she wrote it down, and she was asking, because I always ask. It's interesting too how they kind of connected those two, because that's just kind of my thing of like, what was the best part of your day today? But it really lights people up, and they get thinking, and they're always grateful for that, and that's just one thing. And there's so many times, trust me, where I don't feel like asking that question. I don't feel like doing that, and sometimes I don't even make eye contact. Like I'll be putting my card in to pay, and I'll just be like, just ask, I'll be like, so what was the best part of your day today? Even sometimes not with high energy, and it still is effective. People really appreciate it. And it brings me back to this one story that I had when I was 16 or 17, and I was trying to get a valet job at the JW Marriott Hill Country Resort. They had just built it in San Antonio, Texas. Beautiful place. A lot of San Antonio Spurs stayed there. Awesome place. And my buddy was doing valet there, making good money for a teenager. And I wanted to get a valet job. So I went and applied, and they're like, okay, cool. We need to do a background check, all this stuff for you to get your training done. Be a doorman for a day or two, and then we'll get you in valet. Literally, my job was to stand by the door and open the door and greet people all day. That's all I just standing there. And they didn't have a JW Marriott name tag for me, so they gave me one from some other dude named James. So I was like, I'm wearing this name tag, says James. I'm just opening the door for people. And dude, for 8 hours, like I just had a lunch break. I took like 2 little breaks. It's a long ass time just to be standing there. And I never felt so much like I was wasting my time. And nobody was really grateful. I'm just opening the door. If anything, I remember eye contact. I kind of be like, oh, somebody looked at me. Like it would give me a little bit of, oh, someone acknowledged me. Jared, I kid you not. I remember this dude, how he looked like, everything, glasses, a dad. He was kind of in a hurry. I opened the door for him, and he had come in before and came out, and then he looks at me in the eye. He's like, thanks, James. Hope you have a good day. My name isn't even fucking James. I'm pissed that I'm there, but that literally made my day.
Yeah.
For him just to look at me and call me by my name and say thank you, that got me through the day.
That's hilarious.
So it's we can be a blessing in every single interaction. People love to talk about themselves. I recommend to the community, use this one. What was the best part of your day today? It'll give someone the opportunity to really think, reflect on how their day's going, give you the best part, and it's a great way to be a small blessing. So I really just wanted to.
It's funny you mentioned the name tags, because I use that all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it drives Andrea and the kids nuts. But like if I'm at a place and they have a name tag on, I call them by their name.
Why does it drive them nuts?
I think because not everybody does it.
Yeah.
But like literally, like what is the purpose of the name tag?
Yeah.
So that I know how to talk to you.
Exactly.
Right. So if I like, it doesn't matter where we're at. If I see it as Joe, I'm like, hey Joe, how's your day going today?
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember Andrea and the kids would always be like, oh my God, why do you call them by their name? I'm like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah, it feels good.
What do you want? Like, think about how many nameless, interactionless interactions we actually have, where we just go through the motions of being in the presence of another human with no actual connection whatsoever. just a transaction.
So why do you think we have the resistance towards that? Because I feel it too sometimes. Of I don't want to ask the best day question, or I don't want to say their name. Why do we have the resistance to have a real interaction as opposed to
Selfish? It goes back to who are you blessing, right? Like think about it. If I don't want to call you Ali and say, hey, how was your day today? When you're whatever interaction I'm doing, I don't ask you anything about you. I'm being selfish, right? Maybe I don't have time to listen to your story. Maybe I don't really care. Maybe you look different than me, so I can't learn anything from you. It's selfish, right? And just like you felt, what's that saying? The most special word anybody can hear in life is their name.
yeah, the sweetest sound in any
Yeah,
language?
there you go. Sweetest sound. So as a policeman, one of the best ways to diffuse a situation was to address them by their first name, right? Because then things start to be personal.
Yeah.
Right? When you interact and you say, hey, Jared, how's your day going? Well, it's not the same as saying, hey, how's it going?
Think about how you feel when you're at a networking event or a party or a setting where you're meeting new people, and then somebody you just met comes to you 5 minutes later. It's like, hey, Jared, so how you enjoying the casserole?
Makes you feel what? Special.
Yeah, you're like,
important.
Oh, shit, they remember my name. And then you immediately want to reciprocate. You're like, oh, what's their name again? Like, this guy's good,
Yeah.
We always feel bad when we forget someone's name and they remember ours because that's a sign of respect. And it's so easy. It's too easy.
Yeah. And I think, going back to the topic of who are you blessing, just like your scenario where you're at the door for 8 hours and one guy calls you by name and tells you to have a great day, even though it's not your name, that's a blessing, right? We think, just like you said earlier, people think they have to donate to this charity, rescue these kids, do all that, which is great. Like, do that stuff. But you can bless people just by actually taking an interest in them.
Yeah.
Just by saying hello. Just by living your dreams and encouraging others to come with you, sharing your stories. Like, those are all blessings.
Big time. I can't tell you how appreciative some of the homeless people here around Old Town have been. I'll just stop and exchange a couple sentences. Man, thank you so much for talking to me, man. I appreciate it so much. People don't even look at me. And it's such an easy thing to do. Takes a minute. So let me ask you this, Jared. How does this, from the selfish standpoint again, how does giving back in any of these ways come back to us in return? Like, what really is the gift of giving? Like, what are we getting out of being a blessing, whether it's donating to charities, feeding the homeless, or just talking to a homeless person?
I think, honestly, like, those are all great things, blessings, but I think one of the best blessings you can share with people is just living your life. And living your life to its fullest, right? Because then that allows others to do the same, and it encourages others. So, like, for me, like, writing the book, being able to share the stories of all the people that have impacted me in that book is a blessing, right? Because now their family can look at it and be like, wow, my dad or my grandpa or my uncle made an impact in this life at this time.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the key, is made an impact, right? Living your life, achieving your dreams, that's a blessing.
Yeah, but what if I had just kept all those stories to myself? Right? It still made an impact on me, but what better way to say thanks? What better way to continue to share, and hopefully, maybe the story of them impacting me, maybe that story impacts somebody else. And it's a blessing. So I truly believe the greatest blessing you can have and how you get it to come back to you is to share. Share your story, share your life, interact with the people around you. And all of us can do that. You don't need to have an abundance of money to donate to charity. You don't need to have, an ability to take a small group of kids to a far away place they've never experienced. All that's good, but simply engaging in the people around you and sharing your stories, I think, is one of the best blessings you can give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, And I mean, you just gave an example too. Like that's pretty cool. That made me feel good that I didn't know that the Lucky's ladies reached out on Instagram.
Right.
You know, people talk. News travels fast.
Yeah.
And even the smallest interactions, people remember you. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. People always
And
remember how
that's a
you made
good
them
point.
feel.
That's a good point. It's the small things. Right. Think about this. If I say I strike it big and I'm a multi-billionaire, and you guys all know that, and I just come in and I take a group of kids and I fly them to, let's say we go to a beach in Mexico, and these kids have never been out of the inner city, they've never been to the beach. The first thought you have is what?
Sounds badass.
Sounds cool, but like a lot of people are like, oh, he's just doing this for publicity, because I haven't done it all the time. Right? Like if I don't interact at all and I'm just like, hey, and I put it out to the media and I share it, right? Then you're like, oh, you're wanting attention. But if that same scenario, I've been working with these kids day after day, year after year, and I take them as a reward, right? That's the true blessing, is the day-to-day stuff. And I think too many of us think it's this big thing. And it's not, man. It's what you do every day.
It's not. And I want to take a moment to comment on that. When we say people want attention for doing a good deed, I think that's bullshit. Even if the intention is attention, it's still a good deed. You know, it's still someone doing something good, and I'm all for it. Even if it hasn't been. Here's the thing: we tend to bring people's pasts with them every day.
Yep.
When every single day we have a chance to be born again, to be a new person,
Sure.
to have that opportunity. And when we hang people's pasts, when we attach that to them exclusively, we never allow others to grow. So and trust me, I get that too, to where I'm like, this person isn't donating, but I want to encourage others to praise that.
Yeah, and here's what I would say. I agree. If we look at, so you do something good, I look at you with a skeptical eye, wondering why you're doing that. Mm-hmm. It's usually because I'm coming from a space of, I know I'm not doing what I should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right? If in the same sense, if you do something good and I'm also doing what I know I'm supposed to be doing, then I tend to look at you in the other light. Like, oh, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where we get, like, think about everybody that's in the news and they're like, oh, this person did this, and everybody's like, oh, he's only doing that because of this. It's usually because we're not doing what we're supposed to do. Yeah. So we're super critical of everybody else, but you're absolutely right. Maybe you did it to raise awareness for this because somewhere down the road it benefits you. Okay, what's wrong with that? Yeah. You're still helping people.
Right.
But we're so quick to judge everybody else. Like, quite honestly, even the book. Like, I've got some blowback on the book a little bit. Like, some people didn't care for it. Some people were like, well, you know, sharing all these mentors, by recognizing them like that, you're giving them more power over you. And like, it blows. Yeah, that was one of the comments. I'm like, well, we disagree. I don't think anybody has power over me. I'm just thanking them for helping me be where I'm at. Mm-hmm. But there is that mindset, right? There's that thought that if I bless you to the point you have a different pedestal than me, or you just have a different status in life, somehow that's greater than me. And I disagree. I think giving and sharing and helping others will never make you less. Ever. Yeah. I think it's physically impossible. I think you will always be more by helping others.
I think that's the slogan for the episode right there.
You know?
You'll always be more by helping others. Yeah.
And we know that to be true. Mm-hmm. Like, I guarantee every listener that we have, everybody that we interact with, remembers a time when they gave and it felt good. Mm-hmm. We also remember a time we took selfishly and it didn't feel as good. So how do we remind ourselves to give? How do we stay in the mindset that I can achieve my own goals, you can achieve your goals by working together and sharing? Yeah. That my goal and your goals being achieved aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Well, there's many ways, right? We talked about the charities. You can donate, you can give time. One of the things, there's many ways, but one way that I feel very experienced in is gratitude, simply gratitude. And I'm not talking about going around the Thanksgiving table and saying what you're grateful for, but really showing people appreciation. So one example, I reached out to all of my friends who came up and my family who came up to watch me. Actually, I need to reach back out to my family because sometimes it's funny. The people closest to you, you kind of feel like, oh, they know I love them, and
Take
and,
them for
and
granted. That's
yeah,
that saying, right?
yeah. Sometimes I take them for granted. I don't think I take my family for granted, but I do need to reach out and thank them again. But a lot of my friends, since for the scheduled fight, they came up. It got canceled, and that was a lot on my psychology. To where I kind of had to shift. People were there. I had a lot of people, and I reached out yesterday and sent a really heartfelt. I called a few of them, the ones that didn't answer, sent a really heartfelt text and was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, like, I appreciate you coming up more than I can express. I had a lot of emotions this past weekend with the cancellation, but you coming up to support me really meant so much,
Yeah.
And I just got these great messages back and just kind of like re-strengthened that. And it took me 30 seconds to send the text. That gratitude can be so powerful and can be a way to give back, especially to the people you love. So as you guys know, I'm always an advocate of gratitude, not only in your own practice, whether you pray or vocalize or journal, but also to others as well. Can be really powerful, and that's a very, very simple, elementary way to give back. Right, that's one of the first lessons we learn as children. Or your manners, please and thank you,
Yeah.
but really harp on that thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. And somehow, as we get older and we are trying to establish ourselves in life, we want to take more than we give.
Mm-hmm.
And you look around, the best way to gain influence and to be somebody that other people want to be around is putting other people first.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that they feel important and that they feel valued. And I don't care if you're a coach on a team, you're a business professional leading others, everybody wants to be important. And everybody wants to feel what they do is valued. And that's one of the big things when I do leadership talks is we break down, like, how do you every day make sure the people that are working with you and for you know they're appreciated. And it's not the typical they need a Christmas bonus. Well, if that's one day a year, what about the other 364 days? How are you treating them? Because that's where your value comes from. Is how do you treat people every day? And I think our community is very open to reflecting and thinking and wondering, man, could I be doing more? If you find yourself seeking success and you're the only one on that path, you're the only one out there, you've probably left some people behind that should be with you. And I feel fortunate with the changes I made in life, and what I currently have going is most of my days are spent giving back, whether it's coaching on the mat, working with cops, whatever I'm doing. The general theme is that I'm around people and we're giving back and making each other better.
Yeah.
And that is so fulfilling for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not predicated on my success, which I know will come. It's the fact that my success helps other people have success, and vice versa. Their success teaches me something. So we got to get out of that mindset that only one of us can be successful. There's plenty of success for both of us. And success is much more enjoyable when you have a crowd to hang out with.
Yeah. And essentially, being successful is about how well you can give back. Right? I mean, think about any business. What are you doing? You're providing a product or service that's giving back to your customers. It's adding value to your customer's life in some way. Essentially, being successful at business is how well you can give back to your customers. I mean, it's the circle of life, right? So how does it feel to give back, or to give versus receive? How would you compare those two feelings for you?
I guess the best way I would describe it is receiving feels good for a moment, right? When you get something, like there's that instant feeling,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't last super long, you know? Think about when you were a little kid and you got that new toy. Well, it's fun for like 10 minutes. And then, you know, being boys, we probably broke it. Or 10 minutes later, we found something else, and that toy sat in our closet for the next 6 years. But it felt good when you first got it. But now when you give, you know, you give grandma the whatever you gave her. You give your parents something, say a sweatshirt, for example, and you see them wear that every Christmas or, you know, frequently, like giving continues to feel good.
Yeah.
Right. And so that to me is kind of why it's hard sometimes to not want to take, because taking feels good right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or necessarily giving, you don't see the impact your gift gave immediately.
Right.
But giving continues to pay you back down the road. It's almost kind of like money investments. If I take my money and I buy something today, I know exactly where my money went.
Yeah.
And I have something for it. But if I invest it, I have to be patient and watch where it goes down the road. But 20 years later, that giving, the investing in others, the compound interest of that is far greater than the one thing I bought with my own money.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great analogy. Compounding giving. And it's funny for me, and I hope for most, it's like a cycle, the law of reciprocation, to where when someone gives me something, when I'm receiving, my immediate desire is to reciprocate.
Give.
Like, oh man, I gotta get one of my favorite episodes of The Office is where Dwight Schrute and I think it's Andy are for whatever reason they're trying to be really polite and give to each other, and there's like, after you, sir, like opening the door, and then Andy's like, oh, here's a coffee, sir, and they're just getting pissed because they keep like trying to one up each other with like giving each other and
dude,
being
I love
generous.
The Office.
It's so funny, man. Yeah, he's like, oh, ironed your suit, like all this stuff, and he's like, damn it, stop doing nice things for me. That's the law of reciprocation, you know, when and that's another thing from a selfish standpoint too, right there, is most people, when you give them something, they're immediately going to want to reciprocate. I mean, shit, we do that with business. In my sales process,
They buy something.
well, I give them a sample,
Yeah.
you know, but I pre-qualify them too. I ask them, you know, hey, if you love the functionality and the price is right and everything, is this something you'd order and keep on your shelves? Yeah. Okay. Then I give them the sample. They already feel the law of reciprocation most time. They've been given something. Same thing for everyday life.
Yeah. And everybody's going to want to give in different ways. So find what feels good to you and make it part of your daily practice. You know, I would encourage people that every night before bed, maybe stop and take a minute and reflect back on whose lives did you bless today. You know, it could be simply the gas station clerk that you addressed by name and asked how their day was.
Yeah. Or what the best part of their day.
Best part of their day. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this grandiose thing that takes all your money. Like, it's literally just you making it a priority to be good to the people around you.
Yeah. Yeah, I really encourage your community. Try it for a few days. Challenge yourself to, in every human interaction, give something. It can be a smile even, or give a thoughtful question. I think don't let people off the hook when you say, how's your day going? People can just say good. Like the
We
Are
talked
You Good
about
episode.
yeah.
We have a whole episode on that. To giving someone a thoughtful question is giving a blessing.
And then followed up with a listening ear.
Yes.
Right? Because asking a question that you're not paying attention to is, you shouldn't ask the question. I think so.
Yeah, it's even worse than asking the question in the first place.
Like if you ask me something, I start talking to you, and you're immediately off on something else.
Looking at my phone.
Yeah, why? Fuck, dude, why even ask me this?
Yeah, but that's a blessing if you're going to listen, because we love talking about ourselves. People love talking about themselves. So if you give a thoughtful question to someone, I swear, man, every time, even if it's someone that kind of has a smug look on their face, if I'm like, so what was the best part of your day today? Even if I ask it kind of half-assed like that, what was the best part of your day today? People are like, oh. And they'll start looking up and thinking, and kind of like a smile on their face. And sometimes they're like, I don't think it's happened yet, or they'll give a weak ass answer, but you can still tell that it gets their wheels turning and it's a blessing.
Yeah, no, I agree. It just helps shape their frame of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree, man. Let's get out and be blessings to those around us. Let's work for our goals. Let's have our dreams. Let's continue to pursue being great. But let's make sure we're bringing people with us, that we're not stepping on people on the way to get to the top of our own mountain, but we're bringing a whole crew of people with us.
Amen. Amen. Well, I think this will be some good practice. You ready to hop into it?
Yes, sir.
And for this one, guys, I know that we for a little while we were doing the shirts and stopped for a little bit, but I would like to give away a T-shirt for this specific practice because I think that this...
It's a blessing?
Yeah, I think
the shirt's a blessing?
Yeah. We're giving a blessing. Be a blessing, get a blessing.
There you go.
So part 1, purposeful practice. What ways are you currently giving back to others? Part 2, do you have an example of a time when giving back came to you in return? Number 3, as we work towards achieving our goals, is there someone you can help achieve theirs? And most importantly, email your practice to onpurpose.official@gmail.com. And for this episode, we will pick a submission to get a free T-shirt.
Let's pick a couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get them in. More
Get 'em
blessings.
in and we'll send out some blessings.
More blessings.
Good. You got anything else, Mr. Ali?
Oh, man, just ready to get the day started and
Feeling
be a
good?
blessing.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you being here. You are a blessing,
Appreciate
my
you
friend.
too. Likewise. Thank you.
All right, team. Remember, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. Get in on episode 47, and we'll see you again soon.